Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals rematch in the AFC Championship, Cincinnati at Kansas City. I absolutely cannot wait for this football game. I'm feeling so good about Cincinnati. The Chiefs since January 1st, 2022 versus the Bengals, they are 0-3 versus every other team in the league. They are 18-2. Now, you never root for injuries, but Patrick Mahomes, he has a high ankle sprain. We'll talk about all this in today's video, but before we do, if you guys enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button. Bengals fans, if we could get this video to 500 likes, that would be absolutely awesome. Now, that Bengals-Bills game might have been the best Bengals game I've ever seen. Now, this team started 0-2. Joe Burrow, since week 2, he has a 93.2 PFF grade, that is first among quarterbacks. He has a 105 passer rating, that is second among QBs, and a 68.9% completion percentage, first among QBs. Now, my hot take, and it's becoming almost not hot anymore, I think when Cincinnati takes down the Kansas City Chiefs this upcoming weekend, I think it will be established that Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in the National Football League. I really don't think that's as hot as it sounds. Let me know what you guys think about that, but this team is on fire. Career playoff wins by Bengals QB. Joe Burrow is tied for first already with 5. Every other Bengals QB combined has 5. So Joe Burrow is leading the way, but I gotta say, they put on a clinic. It was an absolute clinic, 27-10 on the road. And what's funny to me now is, once again, not room for any injuries. In fact, I kind of would prefer if Patrick Mahomes was 100%. The Bengals are favorites to win that football game. I find that very shocking to me because they got no respect the entire season. We talked about it last weekend before the game. Or actually, no, we talked about this yesterday. The Bengals, I was watching the CBS, preview they were doing, right before kickoff. Only one person had the Bengals. Nobody had the Bengals winning that football game except Bengals fans. We saw it coming for weeks. The Bills didn't scare me. The Bengals are a phenomenal road football team, and this defense, man, the defense is impeccable right now. Shout out to Coach Lou, also shout out to Coach Jack, but these guys are phenomenal on the defensive side. Josh Allen did not play a good football game, and it's crazy that the narrative was you can't blame Josh Allen for that game. I am blaming Josh Allen for that football game. What are you talking about? Josh Allen in that game, 25 of 42, 265 yards, and that interception. I did not view that as a perfect football game or a good football game. Now, he did have a rushing touchdown, but this Bengals defense is they've been firing on all cylinders for a couple weeks now. They kind of won that football game against the Baltimore Ravens. Not to say that the offense lost it by any means. Joe Burrow did what he had to do, but obviously, that touchdown, the fumble return for a touchdown was huge. Game changer, fourth quarter, complete game changer. But shout out to this Bengals defense, man. They've been disrespected all season. I remember my first couple of Bengals videos, it was around mid-season. It was kind of just when the Bengals were starting to truly catch fire. And I remember the Bengals defense, I think they were ranked 13th in the league. It's just, that just isn't the case. So it kind of goes to show you statistics only mean so much. Now, headed into this weekend, Travis Kelce is going to be a big name. All right, and you kind of noticed it if you watched that Chiefs game against Jacksonville. When Patrick got hurt and came back in after Henny got the touchdown, he was just targeting Travis Kelce like it was no tomorrow. And you got to say, I would say this, Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the National Football League. When it's all said and done, and he's 33, but might be the best tight end of all time. Travis Kelce led all tight end in receptions, receiving yards, and receiving yards over expected from the slot this past season. The Bengals allowed the most targets, completions, and receiving yards to tight ends aligned in the slot this past year. So I have a heavy inclination that defensively there's going to be a large priority, as there should, on Travis Kelce. Now, it is what it is. Pat got hurt. Now, I've never had a high ankle sprain, And once again, I'm not a professional athlete, but I hate spraining my ankle. It would always happen in basketball, but I hate spraining my ankle. Now, it's just not ideal. And it's gonna be a factor, and you see it in the betting odds. If Patrick Mahomes was not injured, 100% the Chiefs would have been favored in that football game. And the Bengals are a huge pain in the ass to the Chiefs. As I said, they've won 3 straight games against Kansas City in the last 13 months. So I truly think the tides are turning. And, anybody saying it was a fluke last year, they have no idea what they're talking about. The 0-2 start to the season just kind of continued to push that narrative. No, this team is so legit. They're going to be legit for years to come. They did a great job in free agency this past year. They did a phenomenal job in the draft, i.e. Cam Taylor-Britt. But in general, you look at that offense, it's heavily drafted. Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Higgins, Jamar Chase. I remember that Week 17 game last year. He had 225 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. He had another phenomenal game this past weekend. 5 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown. And what I'm kind of anticipating, like we saw in that Buffalo game where Cincinnati was off to a 14-0 lead, is when you have this high-powered of an offense, as good as your defense is, if they get the kick, they're going to go down and they're going to put points on the board. And if it's a touchdown, I feel even better about this team. Now, I will say Kansas City's defense has been improving, but Joe Burrow is just, this is an MVP caliber player. This is, to me, like I said at the beginning of the video, when it's all said and done after this weekend, I truly think, and after the Super Bowl win, that's right, my gut feeling is telling me the Bengals are winning it. I've been calling it for months and months now that the Super Bowl was going to be San Francisco versus Cincinnati. Was still kind of leaning more towards Cincy, but I feel 100% in my gut. My gut's telling me this Bengals team, they're going to be Super Bowl winners. Now, once again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Got to take it game by game, but I feel so good about this Chiefs game, and I think a lot of Bengals fans would agree with that. A big thing, obviously, the offensive line. They're missing majority of their starters from the start of the season, and this offensive line has done an impeccable job, especially this past weekend against Buffalo, but in general, ever since the start of the season, you had some new faces. Took a while to get acclimated, to get adjusted to it. They're a difference maker. And we saw it directly correlated with, obviously, it's just the protection to Joe Burrow. And by the way, watching the post-game interviews with the offensive line, they care so much. It's hard to not care about Joe Burrow. Obviously, he's your starting quarterback, but still, it's just a special kind of love. We saw it directly with the rush game, though. And I hope it continues because Joe Mixon is a dog. All right, he's an absolute dog. 20 carries, 105 yards, and that touchdown. That's over 5 yards per carry. Samaje Perine as well, the power back who's got a little bit of speed. 7 carries, 33 yards, a little below 5 yards per carry. And then Mr. Joe Burrow, who just does a great job at extending plays, extending drives, something Patrick Mahomes most likely will not be able to do this upcoming weekend, which is his greatest threat. 6 carries, 31 yards. Bengals, at the end of the day, 34 carries, 172 yards, and a touchdown, 5.1 yards per carry. And in a game where it's snowing, it's just a huge deal. Look over to Buffalo, 19 carries, 63 yards. It's just 3.3 yards per carry. They did have that touchdown by Josh Allen, but, everyone keeps saying, oh man, the Bills, they needed rushing help. We said it all season, they needed rushing help. I think that just is heavily discrediting that Cincinnati Bengals defense because they've been so good in the pass and in the run game, and it's just going to continue. It's just going to continue. So we'll continue to cover the Cincinnati Bengals throughout the week. Once again, I post Bengals videos pretty much on an every other day basis right now. So let's try and get to 500 likes on today's video, guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Seriously, Bengals fans, changed my life this NFL season. But most importantly, go ahead, drop some comments, drop some hype on this upcoming game. Peace.